What were your thoughts on C9 and their performance at MSI? Because it was bizarre in the way that they both lost to the worst teams but also beat the best teams, which I think I would be more encouraged by that. Like, fans will get mad because they lost to Pentanet. I think that losing to Pentanet but beating top LCK and LPL teams is a better result than just beating Pentanet every time they play and then losing all your games to the top regions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really care too much about like best of one results, so it's kind of sad we didn't get to see C9 in like series versus these teams, especially the top teams. From the outside, and like some of the things they've said in interviews, it seems like going into it, they weren't unsure of the meta. They came out with like a Kindred Lulu comp to begin with, which funny enough is like a strong composition now, at least in the West. And that didn't work out. And then they tried the Rumble, that didn't work out. Then they went back to the Adir, that worked. Perks wasn't doing so hot or wasn't able to affect the map when he was playing mages than when he was playing stuff like Tristana or Silas and Zoe. It felt like they were a bit all over the place going into the tournament and even towards the end of it. So it's really hard to pinpoint. I feel like C9, when they know when they understand the meta and they know how they want to play out the early game, are just a really, really strong opponent. And that's why they were able to take off games off the best teams. But when they kind of mess up their read on the draft, or when they mess up their knowledge of how to play the early game, we end up in those situations where they like are like 4v4ing at the first scuttle crab spawn, and then the game just collapses entirely from that. So yeah, C9 is a really weird team, especially in best of ones. But in series, I would always put my money on them. At least like in NA. Internationally, we don't know 100% yet. But I feel like they're more of a best of 5 team than a best of 1 team.
What do you think about the transition from spring to summer? Because I think the level of play in LCS was pretty tragic as a whole in the spring, but roster moves like Abadage, you guys making a roster move, which I consider to be very helpful for you in terms of getting some new blood in the team and ending the Deathly experiment, as it were. Do you feel like this is going to be a better split overall for LCS with a higher level of competition?
I think the macro will still be bad.
Well, why is that? Why is that?
I don't know, man. Or else we would be winning LCS. I'm not the coach, so I'm not 100% sure. But from what I've seen so far, I think the NA macro is still bad compared to when I'm watching like China or LEC, at least the top teams in LEC.
This is what confuses me, though.
Ask you a weird question. I've got a devil's advocate angle for that, okay? This is what it is, okay? Basically, it's the same concept as in solo queue, right? Which is that when one of the reasons, in my opinion, people always cry about being in ELO hell is because normally they're on Reddit, they're people who are fans of esports, right? So what they do is they watch professionals play, they code in their brain, this is how the game's played, and then they go and play bronze players, and that doesn't work. Like, against bronze players, like, you go in as the jungler, no one's following you up in that scenario. Like, you try to do like a fucking like, wait for me, guys, I'm just farming this off. They're just going to fight without you. Know what I mean? Like, you actually have to play logically worse to play at a low level. So is there something similar in this regard? Like, if someone tried like a lot of crazy side laning or some sort of like clever approach, would it just like actually potentially not be as good against whatever NA does?
Yeah, so kind of like, I won't go into the specifics of it, but like we had a discussion recently where like a player is saying, but if they do this, they're trolling because they don't know if I am going to be in that spot. But then, our coach said it's NA. They are going to come to this objective because that's what NA does. They just group. So if you're not there, our team gets screwed. So it's weird. Like, I don't understand it completely yet.
Actually, the reason, by the way, why I love people like LS, and I think we need them in the scene, because the concepts they try to bring over from like Magic the Gathering and stuff, this is exactly what you need. Like you can have the weakest color can be a counter to one of the best colors. Now, it doesn't make that the best color, but it means that against that particular type, they will actually win. The same thing, I'll give you a very quick tangent, has basically happened at the moment in Counter-Strike. There's a young player who came up who plays for a team called Virtus Pro, this CIS team called Yakindar, right? And basically one of the things he's been doing is he's just exploiting all these gaps in the game that pro players don't take these particular fights, because in theory, they're not good. Like if you take a very aggressive fight, I'll make it very vague here, in this particular way, normally if you do that, like they use flashbangs against you, or they just like would already kill you if you did that. But the idea is, if the other person just thinks already, well, he's not going to try it, therefore I'm not going to do what the counter to that would be. That actually creates like an opening of an unknown area on the map that you can exploit. But you can't exploit it forever, obviously. Like if people eventually adapt, that will be countered. But it means there's a brief period where even playing worse can make you win against the top one. So I think it also goes in reverse, because basically that was similar to the story. I've taken all the stories of the coaches I know who come from Europe and go to NA, the star players who were the mid laners and solo laners, because obviously they're the ones I'm like, why aren't you just in the side lane? And they just tell me like, you would just lose way more games, mate. Like it just doesn't make, like, because everyone, including some of my teammates, but all of the other team, won't play the correct way against that. You know, the old classic Idra thing of like, you only won because you played incorrectly against my correct play. It's like, brother, that doesn't, I know what you mean, but that doesn't work. Like you have to win the game at the end of the day.
Part of it is a mental game.
Yeah, essentially, I sort of get the premise of that. It makes sense. It won't to a fan because they think it's like an absolute thing. And you know, however RNG or fucking damn one plays is how you're supposed to play. But like, not necessarily. They play against their opponents. You play against yours. Whatever. It's a great point. So you didn't have anything to say on to you. Move on.
I mean, I just find it ridiculous that the macro can be viewed so like that's the issue that you can't solve, because if ping was the issue, then surely you would focus on the macro game as the method to improve first and foremost, because you can do that through analyzing other teams and not even playing the game.
Well, think of it this way: like we've also imported coaches from other regions, players from other regions. Why haven't they been able to translate the knowledge they've had from previous regions?
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know. Or else I would have the answer.
Yeah. It is a mystery.
To me, this is the greatest mystery about North American League of Legends is like why you can't take macro concepts and at least be good at that. Because in theory, it shouldn't matter the solo queue experience.
Here's the real problem, Monty, and this is what, sadly, you know, like we wish that bit will never happen. The real thing that would make it interesting to me would be take a team. So example, an obvious example would be like if you went back like, I'm going to say like a year, 2 years, and you could take like the Origin team with Alfari and Nuke Dark, and you just brought them to LCS, and they just come the entire team, and you pop them in. Do they dominate because they actually know all these concepts, or do they actually flounder and be a mid-table team because it wouldn't work? The problem is you'd really need to like A/B test like that. Like, it can't just be an individual player. I want to see an actual team that I know can do it. I've seen them do it all the time, and then they come into LCS. I'd love to see how they do, but obviously we don't have an open circuit, so we'll never see that. You can forget that.
We're not allowed to have that. We're not allowed to have that, unfortunately.
Maybe like a part of it is like the import coaches and the import players come in, and instead of like just elevating the region, it's more of like a
they come down to their level.
Not all the way, but like more halfway.
Okay. Right.
So maybe it's better to look at it from that way. Like it's just because you bring a part doesn't mean you're gonna elevate to that level, but you're gonna elevate it slightly.
I mean, put it this way, Monty. If there was any way that they could convince him, like you think that Jizuke was just like, yeah, it's team fight on a zero all the time. Why not? Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, I'm down, homie. I'm down. He would want to be inside it all day long. He tries to go there like level 4 or something. Not really, but you get the joke.
I love that about him, though. That's what I find. That's what I find so entertaining.
I think it's the shit.
I mean, you guys say that LCS should be more like WWE, and Jizuke definitely fills the part of that.
I know, which by the way has been vastly underutilized by you guys in terms of your marketing and content. Like, he is so entertaining, and yet why did I have to watch that one clip of him with a flamethrower all of last year? Why couldn't you have done more stuff? Like, give
What
me
you need
more
to do
Jizuke
is a
content.
skit where he's Wario and he's just fucking up the game for everyone. He's just making all crazy shit happening and stuff. He's got the haircut already.
I want to see.
was COVID restrictions, but yeah,
Right,
we should
okay.
do more. We should do
True.
more content.
I just want to see. I want to see a montage of like all the shit that he types to people in solo queue games that he's in.
Oh, here's another one. Here's another free idea for you. So, you know, everyone loves at the moment when that, like, Dave Portnoy does all those, like, pizza reviews or whatever, right? Since you all know that, like, Italians are, like, pizza supremacists because they like the, like, perfect thin crust with, like, you know, the traditional tomatoes and the sauce is made with your grandma's recipe. All you have to do is this. Take Jdubs to, like, 6 different pizza chains in America because obviously he's going to be like, what the fuck is that? Like, and then he's going to taste the pizza, by the way. By the way, I love this. I'm trash from the Northeast. I fucking hate normal Italian pizza. I love this trash. I like it when they put all the sugar in the sauce. Like, oh, tastes lovely now. And when it's like not crispy, it's all like, you know, fucking soggy. But obviously, I'm high as fuck half the time. But it is fucking amazing. Like he would consider it like a war crime though. So I think it'd be amazing content. It'd be sick. And then just give Sven Skaren some of it afterwards or something. You know, whatever. He's got to do something with the pizza. He's got enough gains. He can handle it.
He can take it. All right. Well, there you go. Those are some ideas for you for content. I know that's your primary job and interest there, Empire.
Yep.
Some freebies.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We do have to take a quick break, and we're going to talk about LEC with Deficio, who has generously graced us with his presence on this show. Thank you for generously gracing us with yours, Empire. It's been fun to talk about League Analytics. All right. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.